listening to the Parts Pros podcast, the only podcast made specifically for automotive parts professionals. We're here to dive into the latest industry trends, expert strategies, and real-world solutions to drive success and boost your parts department bottom line. Hi, I'm your host. I'm Amanda Poe, an automotive marketing expert with more than a decade of experience helping dealerships drive growth in the ever-evolving landscape. You've seen me on every episode so far, and Emily, joining me from our official podcast sponsor, RevolutionParts, has been on quite a few episodes herself. She is also a parts and e-commerce guru with more than 5 years of hands-on experience working with both OEM and aftermarket parts industry leaders. Hi, Emily, and welcome.
Hi, Amanda. Thanks for the great intro. Happy to be back.
Absolutely. All right, our other guest today, and the reason why we're all here today, David Blair from Dependable Dodge in California. He's been there at Dependable Dodge for 6 years, and like so many others, and this cracks me up because we really have, David, had quite a few people who started out the same way that you have. He started as a driver and worked his way up into selling parts. He's in charge of the wholesale and online parts store there at Dependable Dodge. So he's a wholesale and e-commerce expert. So that's mainly what we're going to focus on today as we talk through some of your experience and some of your advice for new people in the industry. Hi, David, and welcome.
Hey, Amanda. Thank you for bringing me on, having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. We're excited to have you here. Anything you want to share with the guests today about, who you are or where you come from?
Sure. So, yeah, I'm born and raised here in Los Angeles. I started at Dependable Dodge. I had some friends who worked over there, so they got me a job over there, and I started out as a driver and worked my way up. They put me in charge of the online store when it was very small, and I got to learn how that works, and then I moved into wholesale, so I deal with some of our larger accounts. I'm not in charge of wholesale, but I am in charge of the online store, and so that's what I've been running for the last, I believe, 4 years now, and grown it quite a bit. So, I love my job, so I'm enjoying it over here.
That's really good. Now, you say you've grown quite a bit. Can you talk about some of your growth real quick before we get into the questions? I know that Dependable Dodge has been with Revolution Parts for a little while, and you're working with Jen Say, who we've had on the podcast many times right now. Let's talk a little bit through any numbers that you can share that won't get you in trouble. So what some of that growth has looked like.
Oh, sure. Well, when we first got on, I remember I was doing about 3 or 4 orders a day. So it was very small. It was a very side business, and it was like 15, 20,000 a month. And it took us a while to grow. We essentially started with the national store that the manufacturer runs. So it's just you choose a dealership, and then the order goes to them. That's it. Then we had our own store, our own web store called mopareparts.com. That's what we primarily have been growing over the last few years, and brought that up to a pretty good number. And now we added eBay at the end of last year, so we are approaching about 200,000 in total sales a month right now.
Wow! So from 15,200, and that's a pretty good amount of growth in just a couple of years.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Quite a bit. Very impressive. Very impressive. So, I mean, David, I heard that you have 5 dedicated wholesale salespeople. I mean, you must be a real pro at this. So I'm curious, what do repair shops value most in a wholesale parts supplier?
Oh, they definitely value trust and service. And I think that's what we have a lot of dealerships in San Fernando Valley. It's a very busy, like suburban part of Los Angeles, but there's a lot of businesses out there and there's a lot of competition. However, we have the largest wholesale division of all these dealerships out here because we service our customers well. We have 8 drivers and we deliver to our entire area, and then we go in about a 50-mile radius. So we go all the way down south, take care of a very large, wide variety of shops, primarily because we have very good salesmen who have had great client relations for years, and they've developed trust, and we've been able to deliver by delivering in a timely fashion. We have multiple runs a day, so we take care of our close by customers twice a day, and the farther ones, they get their stuff next day or same day if they get it in early enough. So by being reliable, fast, and offering pretty good price, very competitive pricing, obviously, we've been able to grow in that sector.
Now, I know this wasn't one of my pre-scheduled questions, but I do want to know. I think a lot of people that are thinking about getting into e-commerce are concerned about something you just said, very competitive pricing. And I know we have to be very competitive when it comes to wholesale. How does wholesale pricing versus online pricing differ as far as how competitive you need to be?
So with wholesale pricing, sometimes we get incentives from the manufacturer to help with giving extra discounts and such. However, the best thing, we don't charge for our delivery services, so that's kind of coming out of our pocket, and we make up for it in just, sheer quantity of sales. With online, we can go a little better in pricing. However, shipping is involved because 98% of our orders are getting shipped out to all over the country, and that's where we've been targeting to make our most money on. So we have our rates adjusted so they're fair, but that's how we make our profit. I was going to say also manufacturer incentives for year-over-date sales and increasing our retail sales, which has been a smaller source of income for our dealership. So different, extra bonuses to that. Also.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit. I'd love to hear, that's something that I don't think we've talked about on the podcast before. A lot of people talk about wholesale and e-commerce and how they're improving their sales numbers, but they don't talk about how they're also getting incentives from their manufacturer to improve those sales numbers. What does that look like for you as the dealer?
Yeah, manufacturers are always trying to come up with different incentives to drive growth. There's different promotions. Like in our service department, you buy 3 tires, you get 1 tire for $1, and that's the promotion they run twice a year for quite a few years now. That's just an example of one. But one of the biggest way to hit objectives is to beat your sales from last year. Now, our online store has really been helping with our retail sales because not too many people go into a parts department the old-fashioned way anymore. It's just if they need to take their car in, they take their car into service, and then that's where a lot of them sales come from. But not many people are just walking in anymore. They go online and order that way. So we drop all that in the same bucket as those sales. So as our online store has grown, our year-over-date sales have grown because we only sold, I'll just pull a random, 50,000 last February in retail sales. Well, now we're selling even more on the online sales. So it's going to beat last year's number, which is going to help us hit objectives, along with, different things like customer surveys in the service department. So all these little objectives we have to hit, this is helping hitting that one by a lot and getting us into like the top tier of manufacturer incentives.
And so the more you sell and the more you improve your sales month over month, the more incentives you get from the manufacturer. So Those are little bonuses. Are they discounts on parts that you're ordering for your dealership, or is that just bonuses going directly into the dealership's pocket?
Mostly bonuses. There are some promotions they run here and there, but I don't believe those are tied to exact targets. And those are more parts manager questions, but I'm giving you what I can know, what little bit I know about it.
No, I appreciate that. I appreciate you going off script for a minute and sharing a little bit more about manufacturer incentive. Now, you are Mopar, and I know that, different manufacturers have different incentives, but hearing that you're getting incentives for increasing your sales month over month, that's a pretty good incentive for somebody to get into e-commerce, especially if they are not currently getting those incentives because, like you said, the walk-ins are pretty low.
Yeah, it's hard to drive growth in the retail department. It's very up and down with our service, with people bring their cars in here and there, so it's hard to grow. It could get very stagnant. So having an extra channel to grow is really helping it.
And I would think if a dealer in the San Fernando Valley is having a hard time growing from walk-ins, probably dealers in smaller DMAs are going to have a little bit of that same difficulty too.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, back to the predetermined questions. Let's talk a little bit more about wholesale, because I know wholesale is where you have a lot more experience. How do you compete with the larger wholesale networks and national retailers? I know it's really difficult for you as an individual store to compete with a giant national retailer. So what does that look like for you and for your wholesale operation?
Well, in contrast to online sales, this is where we kind of come in with wholesale. Because if a customer down the street needs a part ASAP, they're not going to want to wait for someone to ship it to them. And the fact that we have a good driver network and are able to deliver stuff really fast really helps us in that regard. And also, as far as pricing concerned, manufacturer offers a lot of price matching and stuff with OEC, OPS tracks, collision repair, parts trader, which we have dedicated salesmen who handle all of those channels. So they're able to get they're able to get price matching and get the prices even lower to help with that.
That's fantastic. All right. So what advice would you give to a new parts manager trying to build a wholesale business?
I would say definitely hop on it. There's, especially in cities with a lot of automobiles and an expansion, you need to have a wholesale business it's right there. people are going to keep crashing their cars. People are always going to need, mechanical parts for their vehicles. It's a business that's just waiting to be tapped into. I wouldn't know why somebody wouldn't go in there.
Fantastic answer.
Great advice. So I'm curious, if you had unlimited budget to improve your parts operation, what would you invest in first?
Ooh, I would definitely invest in. We have a pretty good sized warehouse. I would get an even larger warehouse. I would upgrade all of our computers, get a nice, more room for parts, more room for employing new people. And I would definitely grow in marketing, because marketing is what has helped drive our growth through Revolution Parts. So they've helped us a lot with marketing our different online channels. So marketing and infrastructure.
It's a big plan.
Well, David, thank you so much for being here today. This has been a very informative wholesale episode of the Parts Pros podcast. For more information on the Parts Pros podcast and our official e-commerce sponsor, Revolution Parts, visit partsprospodcast.com. When you visit partsprospodcast.com, you can subscribe for our podcast, or on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, or YouTube, or wherever it is that you catch your podcasts. Again, you can visit our website, partsprospodcast.com, to find links to all of those sites and to subscribe. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next time.